Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new to the channel, I'm Becky Alexander Frost, and I own a brand called RJF Makes, and it's all about sewing. Yeah, sewing. Right, so today, if you're actually joined us on this video, it's to do with the new pattern release, or it could be the old release, of the Craft Bucket bag. The Craft Bucket bag can be made for anybody regarding a craftsperson, or a grooming kit bag, like for horses and for dog grooming and stuff like that. It's a versatile bag. Even gardeners could actually like this bag too. So, to get the pattern, you can either download it from the shop, which will be somewhere around here, links in the description, or there might be a card somewhere, or it might pop up somewhere. You can buy the you can buy it as a hard copy or a PDF pattern. The hard copy is the printing's already done for you and you get the pattern through the post, or you can download the pattern and print it off on your home computer or home printer, whichever. If you print it out. So there is a few things if you are printing it out at home. This square here, the 1-inch square that prints out on page 17, needs to be exactly 1 inch, because these are set with measurements within the pattern, and they won't fit each other if they aren't exactly one, if that square isn't 1 actual inch. That was a bit of a tongue twister. Anyway, so the way I make sure that's going to print out 1 inch, within my printer settings, if you actually go to the printer settings and select either actual size or 100%, you'll know that this will, no matter what country you're printing this in, whether it's America, the UK, Australia, whatever size paper you're printing it on, that will print 1 inch. So there is a thing that you can actually do. Print out just page 17 to save wasting any paper. Get your quarters rule and pop it over the actual inch square to make sure it fits exactly within that inch square there. So you'll notice that page 17 and 18, and there is quite a few pattern pieces that are like this, that has the outer slip pocket on, and this also has the outer slip pocket on. Oh, my ink smudged there. But you will need to cut these two pieces out and stick them together. You'll need some paper scissors. Don't use your fabric scissors, it's not advisable, and you'll need some tape, scotch tape, sticky tape. So when you're actually cutting out, you'll need to cut out just right outside that black line, and my advice is to cut just the one piece at the start, like so. Obviously making sure that your 1 inch square is actually perfectly the right size. I'm just going to quickly trim that bit off. That's one of your pieces. You can just pop that to one side. And then the key things that you need to match up is, don't look at this bit where the two arrows are. It's looking at the top and at the bottom, making sure they match up. So, and you basically want to hold those into line. So I just pop the scissors over, and now it's definitely matched up top and bottom. Getting a bit of tape, not the best tape dispenser, and you're going to just tape that bit at the top and at the bottom, and obviously a bit in the middle as well, just for reinforcement. Now you can actually cut away all this excess here all the way around. Make sure you're cutting out at the outer edge. Right, so now you've actually got all your pieces cut out, I will let you into a hint. Pattern piece, large top closure and the small top closure, these two pieces. My advice is, when you're selecting your fabric, is to use a multi-directional print or a plain fabric. The reason being is, this is the bit, the drawstring on the actual top of the bag. And where it says place on fold here, yes, you are placing it on the fold when you're cutting out, but this is also where you need to fold that top part, so you're generating the outer fabric as well as the lining fabric. So once we fold it over, it will actually, if you used a print that was non-directional print, you've got to bear in mind that on the lining side the print will be upside down. That's just a hint. Even though I've said directional print, I'm just stating that directional print is for when you're wanting the fabric to sit right on the outside, so the print is going upwards. But what you've got to bear in mind, that the print on the lining side won't be correct, and it will be going downwards. So now let's talk about fabric. Right, so first of all, I would like to thank the Little Stitcher Sews. She is a UK haberdashery fabric shop in the UK. Obviously I've just said UK, but right, so she has actually happily sponsored the actual paper pattern today, and this is the fabric from her shop. So thank you, Laura. So I've selected, well, between me and Laura we selected 4 different types of fabrics. So you'll need a fabric A, B and C, which is 1/2 meter of each, and a fabric piece D, which is your lining fabric. I do offer a panel kit in the shop, and you will only need the lining fabric to go with the actual panel itself. However, if you are using your own stash, you need to work out which are your fabric A's, B's and C, and obviously your lining fabric D. So obviously I keep pointing to this one as my lining fabric D. That's my 1 meter. So my lining fabric will be most of these pieces that I will show you in a minute, plus the slip pockets. So yeah, that's popped that to one side. Right, so you need for your outer pocket. Now it's a key feature, those slip pockets. So me and Laura went and chose the sloth fabric as our key featured fabric, and those pieces that are generally needed for this is the strap, the adjustable shoulder strap, the outer slip pocket, and the rectangular ring tabs will be cut out of this fabric. I tend to put my fabric pieces within the pattern, within the fabric, so I basically know which fabric is for what pattern pieces. So for my main body and the base, I've chosen this fabric. So that's for the main body piece. You'll need to cut 2 of those plus that. Plus you obviously will have to cut lining fabric for both of these out of this fabric here. So once again, I've just popped this in here. And this is all from Laura's shop. And for the top closure part, which is your drawstring part, I've gone for a contrast, which is within this fabric here, and it's also in the dots as well within the main body fabric. And I've got fabric for the 1/2 meter fabric for the large top closure and the small top closure piece. So in the actual pattern, I state that you need a heavy stabilizer, which is a foam, but you can use a fusible fleece if you want to, but you've got to bear in mind the foam will give it structure, and also once you've got those outer pockets filled, it means that the bag won't collapse in or collapse out. So having the foam makes it stand upright, so nothing can fall out those slip pockets on the sides. And also you'll need a medium weight interfacing. I've opted to use Visaline or Visaline G700, and that's a woven interface. Just means that because I'm using a quilter's cotton, it means that you are getting a bit stronger, robust finish. So there is a few things that you will need as your supplies to make this bag. You will need 2 rectangular rings, which are supplied either in the kit or you can buy these by yourself. You'll need 1 inch rectangular rings, and that's 1 inch measurement, this part here. So that's this part here. You'll need 2 of those, and you'll need a strap adjuster, so this can make your crossbody strap long or short. You'll also need a cord toggle push button, or a duffel coat button, which you will find on a duffel coat. You either need two holes or 1 hole. I've opted for 1 hole on demonstrating today, and this needs to be more than 1/4 inch, so that's 5 millimeters wide. You'll also need, which if you've got the kit, you will get these 3 pieces plus the toggle, the adjustable, plus this cord. This is the drawstring cord that will feed eventually through this push button cord adjuster. Optional within the pattern is 1 inch strap. I've gone for the grey because obviously the sloughs are a bit grey in the pattern. Now this isn't needed, this is just if you don't want to just carry it all the time on your shoulder or over across your body. This is ideal for if you want to carry it by a handle. And you'll need to get some 1/4 inch wide, that's 1/4 inch wide elastic. In the UK we call this knicker elastic or underwear elastic, so yeah. You also need a polyester thread. Now I can't stress this enough, with bag making, don't use 100% cotton or anything like that, because when you've used this on your strap and you overfill your bag, you'll find that your stitching line will eventually snap. So I've gone for Gutermann Sew All thread. Now there is some tools that you will definitely need. So you'll need either a rotary cutter or a pair of scissors, or both, for cutting out. You'll need some pins. You'll definitely need some more tape. That will come in effect when you use your cord. You'll need either pins or wonder clips. I tend to opt for both. You'll definitely need a bobbin or a safety pin. Now I'm using a safety pin because I don't actually have a bobbin. And I'm actually going to be using size 16 needles because there is a few bulky areas within the bag. So it's just basically, I know with size 16 needles my machine will cope with going over those bulky areas. And also I advise you to use a walking foot on your machine. If you don't have a walking foot, make sure you go slow. Don't force your fabric through. If you do have any problems, don't hesitate to ask any questions down below, or email me or message me. I'm there to help, and we will get that bag made between both of us, with me giving you further instructions if your machine is not coping. Right, so we've come to cutting out your fabric. So I'm going to start off with my main featured fabric. My main featured fabric, I will be cutting out my outer slip pockets, just the outer parts, not the lining, 2 rectangle ring tabs, obviously 2 of these. Then I'm also going to be cutting my bias binding from this, as well as my shoulder strap, or crossbody strap, depending on how you want to call it. So let's pop this one piece to one side, and I want to get these 2 pieces cut out first. This is my main priority out of this fabric because they're the key elements. So we're going to open up the fabric, and I know when this is folded on the fabric, it is more than where it was folded. So this is the reason why I'm opening it up. So I want to get the most out of my fabric. So I'm going to pop the pattern piece on. No, I can still push out a bit over. Yeah, that's spot on. Because my selvage is here, I don't mind going over just a little bit over the selvage because I know this will be caught within the seam allowance anyway. And because I know my fabric is straight and my pattern, my actual sloughs are horizontal, and perfectly horizontal, I know I can put this pattern piece right to the edge of there, and where we folded the fabric is where we're going to put the pattern piece on the fold here. Now you can either pin or use pattern weights. I use weights. I actually use ice hockey pucks because we love ice hockey in this family, and I'm just going to pop those to, and then I'm just going to cut around those 2 sides here. And just make sure you're cutting all the way through. It might be best if you have a sharp blade. I sharpened mine before I actually started showing you how to cut. And basically there you have it. That is your one piece. So we're going to pop that to one side and cut one more time out. So I'm going to keep this folded, and we're going to cut it one more time. So this line here that I previously cut, I will actually line that up to the bottom of the fabric. Just unfold it there. Pop my hockey pucks back on. And then once again, just going to cut around those 3 sides and that little bit there. So this bit here, I tend to just snip off and pop that to one side. It won't come in handy for anything, but it might come in handy if you've got quite a lot of excess. If you want to save it for a bit of quilting and that, you can. So I've actually got 2 pieces now. I'm going to pop those to one side with the pattern piece. So the next thing I want to get out of this fabric is the actual shoulder strap. Now the shoulder strap is where your quilter's roll will come in handy. So I'm going to refold it where the original fold was. Then I'm going to fold it one more time. So we've now got it in a quarter. I'm only doing that because I've actually got a short roll. Now I've noticed this edge here isn't actually isn't actually straight, so I'm just going to straighten that off first. Right, now from here I need to measure 4 inches in, so we're going to make 4-inch wide strap. Now if you're short like me, you won't need to do the full length of the strap that I mentioned within the pattern. Because I'm short, I generally can get away with just cutting one length, but I will carry on cutting to show you how I would get the extra part out of that. So as this stands at the moment, we need 59 inches. So this is 35, 45. So this is 45. So this is 44, 45 inches wide, inches long. So if I open up this fabric and using that bottom bit there, I'm just going to fold that over, matching up the edge. Like so. Making sure it's lined up here with one of my actual lines. I'm just going to cut 4 inches in. Like so. Just pop that to one side. And I'm just going to neaten off this edge here because it's not straight. Right, so when you come to the pattern and when you make the strap or the shoulder strap or the crossbody strap, it will tell you to sew these two pieces together. But at the moment we're going to pop these to one side because we will need to interface these at a later stage. So I'm just popping those to one side. Next we need to cut out the rectangular tab, the rectangular ring tabs, and sometimes you might find this part here is spot on. That's perfect, that bit. So I'm just going to cut that now, and you need to cut 2 of these. And one more. And then pop this to one side with your rectangular tabs. And now this bit here, this is going to come your binding, or if you have the panel you won't need to actually do this part because your bias binding would already be within the pattern. So within the pattern there is a diagram, a line diagram, where you need to cut on the 45 degrees. So if you actually notice on my actual cutting mat is a 45-degree angle here. We're going to pop the fabric on and we are going to make sure it's lined up on one of the lines here, and then I'm just going to get my quarters rule and cut that here. Like so. So now you'll notice, and I'll only use it on this bit because this bit is not going to be wide enough, but you'll notice it's got a bit of a stretch. That's ideal for when we go around the top of the bag because it's a round circle. it means that this will stretch over and make it a neat finish once it's folded over. So we're just going to put that. You can use that for quilting or anything like that if you want to. So in the pattern, I state that the bias binding strips need to be 2 1/4 inch. So we're now going to take this and we're going to pop it at an angle like so. So it goes off at an angle. And then from here, just move that fabric out the way. Now from here, we're going to measure inwards and we're going to just keep doing stripes all the way along of 2 1/4 inch. So using my quarters rule. And then you're just going to keep doing strips along and collecting those strips. So this will generate more binding than you're actually needed for the bag. But I guarantee you, down the line, you'll need some nice actual binding for the armholes of a shirt that you're making, or just to neaten off some pockets within the bag, within any bag. You'll have some binding left over for those projects. So yeah, if you carry on cutting as many strips, and then later on in the pattern, when we come to the binding section, I will teach you how to sew these binding strips together to make one large binding piece for the actual bag. Right, so now you've actually cut your fabric out of your fabric A, you then need to do your fabric B and C, and obviously your fabric D lining. So if you follow the pattern instructions on the cutting out section and cut out all the relevant parts that you need out of your fabric, then do the same for your interfacing, if you cut those out as well. And then we move on to the next preparation of your fabric. Right, so you would have already cut out your interfacing at this point. And if you go ahead and fuse the interfacing to all the corresponding pieces, as I was using a woven interfacing, I needed a bit of steam from my iron, and I used a medium heat interfacing. So there is a few pieces that don't actually require interfacing, and I'll run through those now because then you will know which ones require interfacing. So first of all, you won't need to interface your bias binding strips. So the other pieces that you won't need is your top closure pieces, so that's 2 small pieces and 1 large piece, and then your inside slip pockets, the 2 lining pieces, won't need interfacing either. So next we'll be moving on to how to attach the foam stabilizer, the sewing foam stabilizer. So you'll need your outer base piece, which is got interfacing on, and you'll need 2 main body pieces, which are your outer body pieces, and they will both have interfacing fused onto the back. Pop everything else to one side. So now we need to basically attach the pieces, the 3 pieces, to the foam. So you only need the 1 piece of foam that is within the material list. So the way I actually do this is get your piece that you want to put on your foam, and make sure, as you can see, I've got 1/2 inch on the top and on the side here. We are going to pin it into place like so. The measurement of the foam that I have actually given you is more than what you actually need anyway, but it's not that much. So And then I like to take the other main body piece and pop that with 1/2 inch extra, so you need around about 1 inch in this area, and we pin that into place. At this point you need to get some scissors that you don't mind using for foam. I wouldn't use your fabric scissors at this point. Excuse me, I've gained a cold and a cough, so please just ignore the coughs and the groggy voice. And then we're just going to scoop the foam over and pop the base on. So that'll be my outer base. And once again, I've got 1/2 inch around. As you'll notice, I've got a bit of spare there. Keep that because that will come in handy for another base on another bag or a pouch or something. Once again, you're just pinning that into place. So at this stage on your machine, you want to load up your thread and your size 16 needles. And if you've got a walking foot, I would advise you to use a walking foot at this point. So these are my scissors that I only use for foam, because foam can blunt your scissors. So I'm just cutting around each piece, leaving 1/2 inch all the way around. We will trim that back at a later stage, and you do that for all 3 pieces. Like I say, that piece there, just pop to one side. It will come in handy for something nice, like another bag. So you're going to take it to your machine, and you're going to less than 1/4 inch away, so all the way around the actual piece and all 3 pieces, using a stitch length of 4 on your machine, and then basically I'll meet you back at the table. Right, so now you've got your foam fused to your fabric. As you'll notice, I've done 1/4 inch away from the edge, sewn on a large stitch length of a stitch length 4. We need to trim off the excess, but the way we do that is we flip it over, get our scissors, and what we need to do is just trim it as close as we can to that sewn line, not cutting through that sewn line and not cutting that 1/4 inch seam length fabric. And as you can see, we've got a 1/4 inch free of foam, and do that to all 3 pieces all the way around. And then once you've done that, we'll move on to making the bag.